Yes, hello, welcome back to a war news podcast show thing. Gonna bring you the latest things about war every day when I feel like it. And, well, I have some mildly interesting things, probably not too interesting to most people, but if you like some war, nonsense, and like seeing Putin make a fool of himself even more, then, well, here you are. Today's episode will be focusing on more Russia and Ukraine because that seems to be the only thing that will pop up for me. And tomorrow we will do some Israel war with Gaza. Anyway, on the Al Jazeera site, some of the latest news and the very first headline I received is Russian wives demand return of reservist husbands fighting in Ukraine. Now, before I even begin reading this article, I'm pretty sure what this is all about. They want their husbands back home, and, well, they're moving on. Dozen of women have protested Russia's war on Ukraine and called for the return of their husbands who were called up to fight 500 days ago. Now, if you don't know how this works modernly, there's a deployment time of how long you are deployed before you come home, take a break, and then you can be redeployed. At least that's how it works in America and how it usually works in other countries. Now, they've been deployed for over 500 days and have not returned home. Moscow police detained at least 20 journalists who were covering the event before releasing them hours later without charge. So, what I'm hearing is they probably beat them and scare them to death to where they wouldn't do it anymore. Well, it's a little sad, but I guess that's all we can really get from that. Ooh. This war has been going on for way too long, and I gravely believe that this could be so easily stopped, but it's not. Even though it would be very lovely to see it just stop. So, I don't know if you know that Russia has drones and missiles and ammunitions coming in from North Korea and Iran. Some of them work from North Korea, most of them work from Iran. So I think you see which one's favored more, but this costs them. And we have no idea how they're paying for this. They probably just keep on calling favors. Oh, and then they got Belarus doing something sketchy. Whew. But we are going to go to our next story. This is from APnews.com. A woman clutching an infant is found in the rubble of a Ukrainian building after Russian drone strike. Ah, yes, they love their drones and their big build-up. On a completely different topic, this is focusing a little bit in Kiev apparently, but and everyone knows conflict of nations. I'm currently Belarus in that, and I'm currently invading Ukraine. Why? Because the Fourth Reich, I mean the European Union, told me to. So, moving back to our on-topic story, Kiev, Ukraine, President Vladimir Zelensky urged the Western allies to boost Ukraine's air defenses after a Russian drone strike destroyed an apartment block in the southern port city of Odessa and killed at least 11 people. Officials say on Sunday said the bodies of a boy and a young woman clutching an infant were pulled from Saturday's rubble. The mother tried to cover the 8-month-old child with her own body. She tried to save them. They were found in a firm embrace, said a Telegram post published on the Interior Ministry officials' channel. Separately, the governor of Oza region, Olin Kimper, said the other child was 10. On Saturday, Ukrainian authorities said another baby was among those killed after falling debris from a Iranian-made drone hit the building. One of 8 Russian drones reported by officials later that day. Zelensky said a second child, aged 2, had also died. So I don't know if you know this, but killing women and children, or civilians, or bombing hospitals—that's a war crimes. Now I don't know if you know this, but Russia has committed so many of these, and well, we should try them for it. Like right now, we should arrest Putin, because there is a warrant out for his arrest internationally, but they can't arrest him because Russia's not a part of that, and he won't leave Russia. He's been inside the Kremlin all day. All day, every day, has not left his motherland in the longest while. Pizza. Moving back on, delays in the delivery of weapons to Ukraine as well as air defense to protect our people unfortunately result in such losses, Zelensky wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. More people may still be trapped. The Ost branch of Ukraine's main emergency service said on Facebook. Kipper said rescue workers continue to calm the site. Elsewhere in Ukraine, regional authorities reported that a 58-year-old man died under rubble after Russian forces overnight shelled his village in southern Kherson. Probably horribly butchered that, I'm sorry. Province. Another civilian man, 38, was killed in a Russian artillery strike in the neighboring Zaporizhia region. Local government Ivan Fedorov said on Sunday afternoon. The extra regional government Vlad Flashkin said a Russian airstrike on the eastern town of Kharkov wounded 16 people and damaged 15 high-rise building apartments. You see, I don't see the point in attacking civilian buildings anymore. You should be focused on the current aspect. And judging of how yesterday I was talking about how they took a town, industry one, and settlements surrounding it, the amount of resources they have burned just doing that, I find that just very wasteful of human life that they have to resort to just that. In Russian-occupied Crimea, loud explosions were heard near an oil deposit in the early hours of Sunday, according to the local pro-Kyiv Telegram news channel. Kremlin-installed officials in the territory said a nearby stretch of highway was closed for about 8 hours. Video shared with a pro-Ukrainian channel Crimean Wind showed explosions lighting up the sky, followed by booms. The channel said they were taken by residents near Fedorosa and coastal town in northeastern Crimea. It was not immediately possible to verify the circumstances in which the videos were shot. An anti-Russian Crimean Tatar-led underground group claimed that the blast destroyed a pipeline, causing colossal damage. The group Ashesh, which means fire in the Crimean Tatar, did not directly claim responsibility for the strike and said it had learned about its consequences from informers among Russian appointed officials. Authorities in Kyiv did not immediately acknowledge the claims. Traffic was halted early Sunday along a four-line Russian federal highway near Federonesia, according to the advisor to the Crimea's Kremlin-installed leader. The Telegram post by Orklash Korea, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, Kryolchlov, I don't know, gave no reasons for the move. More than 8 hours later, Crimea's local transport minister reported that the traffic had partially resumed. A bridge that connects Crimea to Russian territory was also closed to traffic for about 2 hours earlier Sunday. Russia's defense ministry did not comment on the reports, but claimed that 38 Ukrainian drones were intercepted overnight into Sunday over the peninsula. Now, I think we all know that Russia's just pulling this out because their chances of shooting down things with actual importance without wasting 90% of their stock is highly unlikely. So the chances of this being true and not false, I find very few. In Moscow, China's special envoy on Ukraine held talks on Saturday evening with senior Russian diplomats in the first leg of the European trip that will also take him to the Belarus, Poland, Germany, and France. Chinese and Russian state media reported. China's foreign ministry said Special Representative Li Hu and Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Goslin agreed that negotiations are the only way to end the fighting in Ukraine. Finally, someone else that's on the Russian side that believes, now, if we just negotiate that you can have this territory, we'll just take a little bit here and keep Crimea and just a little bit of land that doesn't matter to you. That's what they're going to try and go for. Ukraine's going to want Crimea back and a whole lot of other things. Lee's trip, the second since May, comes as Kyiv seeks Beijing's participants in peace talks that Switzerland is trying to organize. China claims it is neutral in Russia's war on Ukraine, but maintains close ties with Moscow with frequent state visits and joint military drills. And by joint military drills, they mean they are next to each other doing their own thing. I've not once seen a video of them actually collaborating there. On Sunday, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said it was a time to start discussing a ceasefire between Moscow and Kyiv that claiming that both sides have now reached the limits of the results that can be achieved through war. I mean, we could come and say hi and show them what happens. We could get rid of Russia. Like, no more Russia. It's just more America at that point. Speaking at a news conference, Fidin said that such a move would not mean recognizing Russia's occupation of parts of Ukraine. We believe that it is time to separate the issues and reconnection of the occupation and sovereignty from the ceasefire issue, he said. Whew. So, that's reaching dangerous levels because that focused on more than just finding children trapped in there. And I have one final story for you before I sign off here for today. Um, on the APnews.com, I will be telling you everything you need to know about Russia's 2024 presidential election, which, surprise, surprise, is gonna be Putin again. Since the year 2000, I'm pretty sure this man's been in charge. Russia's 2024 presidential election isn't expected to bring change to the Kremlin, with most of opposition figures either in jail or abroad, and many independent media outlets blocked. The Kremlin maintains tight control over the country's political system. March's vote is all but guaranteed to see Vladimir Putin, 71, cement his place in power until at least 2030. Or, I mean, they just get sick of him and just kill him. Nonetheless, the election is set to be closely watched by those looking for insight into Russia's political as well as opinions across wider Russian society just over 2 years since Moscow launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Here's what you need to know about the upcoming election, how the votes work, who's challenging Putin, and what this means for global political stage. Any Russian citizen over the age of 18 who is not serving in the time in prison can vote in the country's presidential election. In February 2024, Russia's Central Election Committee said that some of 112.3 million people were eligible to vote in Russia and Russian occupied areas of Ukraine. A further 1.9 million Russians living abroad are also eligible, it said. Turnout in Russia's last presidential election in 2018 stood at 67.54, though observers and individual voters reported widespread violations, including ballot box stuffing and forced voting in the country's 2021 parliamentary election. Turnout was 51.7. Voting in Russia and in annexed regions of Ukraine while oh dear God, English would be lovely, will largely be carried out at polling stations over 3 days between March 15th and 17th in the first presidential election in Russia, when polls will be opened for 3 days instead of one. That actually might be bad for Putin, even though it'll probably just be him running, though. Russian officials first employed multiple day voting in the 2020 referendum. Putin orchestrated to push a constitutional reform that would allow him to run for 2 more terms. However, this will be the first time that multi-day voting will be used in a presidential vote. It will also be the first presidential election which voters can cast ballots online with e-voting rolled out across 29 regions. Independent election observers widely criticize it, stretching the vote for several days and allowing online voting. Says there were tactics to further hinder the transparency of ballots process. Opposition groups in 2021 said digital votes in the country's parliamentary elections showed signs of manipulation. Funny thing, that means someone could just set their NordVPN to Russia, go on e-voting, vote for Russia. I don't know how the voting process works exactly, but I'm assuming Russia is not the brightest with it, so I mean, you could vote for someone else. There's only billions of other people in the world, aside for the few million in Russia. Independent election observers widely criticized. Oh, I already read that. I'm sorry. The vote will also take place in Crimea, which Moscow annexed from Ukraine in 2014, and the 4 regions in the southeast of the country that Russia annexed after launching a full-scale invasion in 2022, even though the Russian forces don't fully control either of the 4. The decision to hold the vote was denounced by Kyiv and the West. Early voting has already kicked off at some regions and will be gradually rolled out in others. Okay, now we're going to get into who is running in the Russian 2024 presidential election. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be running in the election as an independent candidate. He is all but certain to secure his 5th term while facing a trio token contenders. The other candidates Norman nominated by Kremlin-friendly parties represented in parliament are Nikolai Kovachev of the Communist Party, Leonard Solkovly of the National Liberal Democrat Party, and Vladimir Denkov of the New People Party. Kremlin ran against Putin in 2004, finished in distant second. Distant. I have a feeling Putin's going to win this. I don't know why. The broadly supported the Kremlin and its policies, including the invasion of Ukraine. Previous elections have shown such candidates are unlikely to get enough votes to mount a real challenge to Putin in 2018. The presidential vote, the Communist Party runner up secured 11.8% of the vote compared to Putin's 76.7%. I have a very slight feeling that that was, I don't know, kind of rigged, knowing Russia and Putin. Meanwhile, most of the opposing figures who might have challenged Putin have been either imprisoned or exiled abroad. Last week, Russia's best known opposing leader, Alexei Navalny, whose attempt to run against Putin in 2018 was rejected and suddenly died in prison while serving a 19-year sentence on extramental charges. So from this, I feel like it is decided that Putin is probably going to win this. It's probably just widely believed at this point he will. I don't see how he wouldn't. He basically is in charge of anything and everything inside of that country. Okay, I'm gonna end that off here. Thank you all for sticking through me today with this news of what's going on inside Russia and Ukraine. Tomorrow, I will try to get you some news of what's happening over in Israel and Gaza. But today, you get some lovely Russia and Ukraine. I hope you all have enjoyed listening. I will see you all tomorrow. Make sure to subscribe. And bye bye!